Welcome to worship for the 10th Sunday after Pentecost from Prince of Peace Lutheran Church in La Crescent, Minnesota. I'm Pastor Carrie Jonas. I serve as interim lead pastor here, and the sanctuary is quiet right now. But this week we had Vacation Bible School here, and so there were young voices, old voices, Kendra cleaning up in the back, doing all the things that we need to do to have Vacation Bible School and to form faith in our young people here. And it was a great week. The theme was Jesus Weaves Us Together. So this Sunday, we're having a sharing Sunday where we'll sing some of the songs from Vacation Bible School, or we'll hear some of the stories, and it will be a very different kind of worship service. And so recorded worship will be different too. You'll be hearing some snippets of some of the songs that the kids sang this week and will be singing in church, but you will also hear a brief message that brings it all together from Pastor Anna. So God be with you this week, peace be with you, and please worship with us.
Comes up! The dew goes away! Good morning, the little birds say.
Good morning. The disciples got their feet washed. Yes, the disciples got their feet washed. Did you find any other stories? There was one other person.
Right, left, back.
And then it'll say, when you're all alone, he's carrying you, so then you spin it. And then you start doing the get down again.
All right.
So we at the beginning now? Yep. Okay, here's your intro.
Sometimes it's our energy and our time that we offer up in order to help others. If you are a middle school helper, a high school, or an adult volunteer, could you please stand? Look around. These are examples of our people that offer time and energy so that we can spend VBS week together, playing and serving and singing and learning and sharing and getting to know one another. Thank you for volunteering. Let's give them a round of applause. You can have a seat. If you brought food items for the food shelf, please hold them up as our kindergarten group is I just want to thank you. We'll keep going. We got a lot of food today. That's great. Thank you, Lord. Thank you. I just
reading from the Gospel of John, chapter 6. Jesus went across the Galilee Sea, that is, the Tiberias Sea. A large crowd followed him because they had seen the miraculous signs he had done among the sick. Jesus went up a mountain, and he sat there with his disciples. It was nearly time for Passover, for the Jewish festival. Jesus looked up and saw the large crowds coming toward him. He asked Philip, "Where will we buy food to feed all these people?" Jesus said this to test him, for he already knew what he was going to do. Philip replied, "More than half a year's salary worth of food wouldn't be enough for each person to have even a little bit." One of the disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said, "A youth here has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. But what good is that for a crowd like this?" Jesus said, "Have the people sit down." There was plenty of grass there. They sat down, about 5,000 of them. Then Jesus took the bread. When he had given thanks, he distributed it to those who were sitting there. He did the same with the fish, each getting as much as they wanted. When they all had plenty to eat, he said to his disciples, "Gather up the leftover pieces, so nothing will be wasted." So they gathered them and filled 12 baskets with the pieces of the 5 barley loaves that had been left over by those who had eaten. When the people saw that he had done a miraculous sign, they said, "This is truly the prophet who is coming into the world." This is the gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, O Christ. If you've got your monthly booklet with the worship themes, you'll see that the writing prompt for today is, what did you notice in this scripture? What did you notice? John 6 was the theme verse for our last day of Vacation Bible School this past week at Prince of Peace. On that day, we did all kinds of activities and games that helped us to think about sharing. Now, one of the things that I notice in this story is how it didn't take a huge amount of generosity to make a difference. One boy with 1 basket of food was willing to share. Big acts of generosity, they get noticed, right? People get buildings named after them after a significant gift. Or maybe there's a feel-good human interest story on the news about a significant fundraiser or a massive cleanup effort. But today's story reminds us that little acts of generosity also make a big difference. And they're often only noticed by the people who receive the generosity. Like when a child shares their snack, or when your little brother shares his toys. Or maybe when your neighbor says, "Would you like to ride with me today?" These are the ordinary moments of generosity that can make a big difference in people's lives. This past week, Vacation Bible School at Prince of Peace invited us all into generosity. We asked the whole congregation to help feed the students, and all of the snacks showed up. We asked the students to bring donations for the La Crescent Food Pantry. And at church, there is a huge fortress of boxed and canned foods. We invited people to share the love of Jesus through giving of their time. And we had music and games and stories and art and snack and service projects. Now, our theme this past week was weave. And we learned the ways that Jesus weaves us together as a community. That we aren't just individuals, we are a community. Just like cords are stronger when they're braided together and threads woven together as cloth hold, Jesus connects us to one another. On the first day of Vacation Bible School, we learned that Jesus weaves us together. We read about how Jesus called different kinds of people to be his first disciples. And that's just like when Jesus brings us together in the church. We're different from one another, different ages and backgrounds, ideas and preferences and cultures and foods and all kinds of things. But Jesus brings us together. The next day, we learn that Jesus weaves us in wholeness. We read and told stories of healing. And some of the students made get well cards for a friend who had gotten hurt. And we continued working on gathering up our offerings of food for the food pantry. On Wednesday, we learned that Jesus weaves us together through service. We learned that Jesus showed love and honor to his disciples by washing their feet. And then we practiced washing one another's feet, even though it was awkward. We had a special guest from WIN, What I Need Now, who helped us to learn about homelessness in La Crescent and La Crosse. Sometimes it is awkward to serve others, but we do it because Jesus asked us to, and it makes people's trouble just a little bit easier. And that day was also Water Wednesday, so there were some great water games on the front lawn. And finally, we learned that Jesus weaves us through sharing. We acted out the story of Jesus feeding the 5,000 from John 6 that I read just a few minutes ago. And then all the little acts of generosity got added together for that big pile of food offerings. I want you to take a look at the pictures on the Prince of Peace Facebook page. Those are going to the food pantry. And all kinds of gifts from people in the congregation got put together into kindness kits for our unhoused neighbors. And all week long, we did weaving projects, from friendship bracelets to centerpieces to a huge art installation that's going to hang on the wall at the church. Our art, weaving us together, each of our names will be a part of that art, just like Jesus weaves us together, bringing us from different places and different preferences, bringing our little acts of generosity that make a big difference. Our young people spent 4 days together learning and playing and showing acts of kindness and generosity. And I hope that you are as inspired as I was by the incredible, generous offerings shared by children, both in today's scripture story and by our children at Prince of Peace. Now go and do likewise. Thanks be to God.